And we're off. This hand's pretty solid. A couple Tassigers, which are not great currently, but we do have a Thoughtseize to trade early. Maybe our Courser dies. Maybe we get Thoughtseized. Ooh. We're well on our way to casting some Tassigers. We really need to Seder Wayfinder or Gather the Pack. I started with a lot more Gather the Packs and kind of slowly trimmed them down, but card has been pretty nice. I think it is a sleeper. And Thoughtseize my Thoughtseize. Alright. Draw Whip. So we have a lot of late game stuff. Currently working with a Courser and basically nothing else, so hopefully this game goes kind of long. We can actually, you know, make something happen, but yeah, if our opponent's playing blue-black control, like, huh. Kind of tempted to just run out the Den Protector. It seems kind of silly. But maybe not. I mean, a little 2-1 beater. We have two Tassigers, like, going into kind of the long game, and we do want to get a card in our yard. It's like, how long do we want to sit on, like, our Whip of Erebos and our Den Protector and our two Tassigers and everything? Just like, I think I just want to play a 2-1 beater. And then, eventually he's going to have to deal with this. It's possible that if I play Courser, then I just get Languished, and then I just lose the Den Protector for free. But if that happens and we get to resolve a Whip, then, you know, maybe we're not in the worst shape. So, we'll see what happens. Another Courser is pretty nice. Pretty nice. Piker beats. Fetch the second swamp so we can cast Whip. Basically only need one blue source. And I did buy another Courser, so now I have matching Coursers. Okay, our opponent is Esper Dragons, it looks like. What is this? Hangerback? Very nice. Very nice. So we could play Tasker. I think I just want to play Courser. I also want to offer up the trade Den Protector for this Hangerback. Because then it makes his Languishes worse. Because he's going to have to get rid of his Thopteros. I feel like he's just going to take it. But if opponent trades, I'm also fine with that. And we shall see. And then hopefully we can ding a free land off our Courser. Atarka is probably the worst draw in the deck. Not only because we probably can't cast it for a while, but also just because it's not very effective against the Esper Dragons deck. Free land. That's not a land. And then if our Courser dies, that's a beat, because then we're stuck drawing this Hero's Downfall. Don't have a shot at another land. We do get to play Tassiger, so that's something. But overall, not great. Not great at all. Ooh, free land. Hello, free land. We'll also opt to keep this other land that is on top of my deck. And I don't think I'm going to be attacking. I think I'm just going to drop Tassiger. And then maybe next turn I can downfall this Hangerback and actually attack with some stuff. I do think attacking with Courser is mostly a free roll. I could potentially lose it to something like Bile Blight after he blocks and pumps. But I feel like this makes him use a mana before I go to play Tassiger. So that might not matter all that much, but it could. We shall see. Alright. Alright. Tasker may or may not be in the house. It is. Excellent. And I guess my opponent could just be blue-black with like Icefall Regent. But if they are Esper, they generally only have two swamps. So that Delta is probably going to fetch an island. And a lot of their mana bases are like 3 island, 2 swamp. But so far, like, given the amount of basics my opponent has drawn and the fact that they haven't played like a weirdo white source, leads me to believe that they're probably just blue-black. Which is much better for me, because it's way easier to deal with an Icefall Regent than it is to deal with Dragonlord Ojutai. So Crux of Fate. Okay. I'm mostly fine with that because now I get to resolve Whip. So Den Protector was good for 4 damage. Maybe that's not worth it, because at this point I would much rather just have a Den Protector in my hand, but... We'll see, we'll see. Maybe I should have just downfalled last turn too, so that my opponent couldn't do anything with Crux. Well, we have a Languish. It's kind of sweet. I could just wait until... Puppy, please. I could just wait until my opponent plays like an Icefall Regent or something. So I think now we'll just Whip Courser, try and hit additional lands, get towards that Atarka. And it should be pretty tough for my opponent to beat this Whip, especially if I draw something like a Satyr Wayfinder. Well, Jace on top, but that's not bad either. So this basically fogs our opponent's attack with the Thopters, so... I don't really accomplish much. We just kind of trade turns, and then our opponent's going to cast an Ingenuity or Dig, and then try and bury us, so it's not great. Hangerback is showing up in basically every deck. Every Magic the Gathering deck ever. Guess Drifting Death and Ugin are the cards that I don't really want to see at this point. And drawing Jace is sort of a beat, because then we can't really do multiple things next turn. Could just play Tasker for 5 mana. Or we could play Jace and keep open Downfall. But keeping open Downfall doesn't really do anything unless my opponent goes for like Dragonlord Silumgar, and they know I have the Downfall anyway. Alright, there's Temple of Enlightenment, so maybe Esper Dragons. Well, Thoughtseize is kind of annoying. My opponent is Esper. I'm pretty glad I'm saving this Languish. Excuse me. So they did bottom their card off the Epiphany. They're only down to 3 cards. Like, I'm working with a lot more resources than them, mainly because they've drawn so many lands. But we have a lot of cards that are not all that effective in the matchup. A lot of stuff that is probably going to get sideboarded out, like Atarka. Probably the Downfalls, too. Alright, so I took my Languish. That does not bode well. I guess now we can play Jace and Tassiger, which is kind of nice. Although, if our opponent sweeps the board again, that's fine. Gets rid of their Thopters. So, yeah. Yep. I think we're good just running these two out there. Jace is pretty powerful. I guess maybe if this sticks... There's some consideration to not actually playing out the Tasker and exiling the Languish, because maybe I'll need that, but with the Downfall, I think I'm okay in that regard. Plus, if my Jace lives, I should be able to discard the Atarka pretty easily, and if it doesn't live, worst case scenario, I could also just whip back the Jace and pitch the Atarka, so... Alright, so Caves of Koilos means we're definitely in Ojutai land. And there it is. The Dagron has cometh. Ooh, gather the pack. So now we can flip our Jace right away if we wanted to. I think I just want to loot first, discard the Atarka, and then cast Gather, and then next turn we can flip the Jace. Kind of appears that my opponent has a Dissolve. Ooh, that's pretty good. That's kind of good. So if my opponent has a Dissolve, I could cast Downfall and then cast Cut, exiling all my cards, but I don't really want to do that. Yeah, and Gather just misses. So 20 creatures in the deck, basically 1 in 3. We have drawn a lot of our creatures, which makes the math a little bit worse, but Gather generally doesn't break. It's kind of rare to actually hit 2 things, but you know, we're not really banking on the spell mastery all that often anyway. So Ojutai is just not even going to attack. All right. So then what we probably want to do is loot with Jace and Flashback Languish. Ooh, Drifting Death. And then again, we're in the scenario where I guess we just discard Atarka. Again, we're in the scenario where if our Jace just gets attacked and killed, we can always just whip it back and flip it again. So we'll try and flashback this Languish. I don't think it's going to resolve. That should be... Nope. Oh, it does resolve. Alright. What sort of world do we live in here? Another Ojutai. That is okay. Jace is getting attacked. Now I think we just whip Atarkas and start hitting them. If it dies, it dies. If not, we gain 8 life. And then if our opponent attacks with Ojutai, we get to cut it. Playing out Jace doesn't really make a lot of sense, considering you can get 2 triggers from Silumgar and just kill it. Rather just keep them and cut. But I don't see our opponent wins if they just block with Ojutai, so I think they're supposed to just take this. Yep. Alright, 18-2. Still have another 8/8 Flampler in the graveyard. So Ojutai down. Atarka is going to get attacked. Or blocked, I mean. They put a card on the bottom. So I could trade Atarka for the Silumgar. That seems like a wise decision. And now we could play out the Jace, but I think our opponent's only real out is Ugin. So I don't really want to commit that. Yeah. And then just whip back Tasigur, kill our opponent. So, cool. Alright, other Tasigur, Priest. Languish is probably pretty good. Definitely want Duresses, Strokes, and Cruises. So we have a lot of cool stuff for this matchup, which is excellent. Ultimate Price is definitely not good. And then, don't think we want these downfalls. Probably don't want these cuts either. So now our deck is mostly just threats. We still have 21 creatures. I like the Gathers to fill my graveyard. But I do have to cut 2 cards. So I'm up to 5 Delve cards, which is pretty high. So I kind of want to keep the Gathers. But I think the games will just naturally drag on. So it's possible I don't actually need them. And I kind of like everything else more. So yeah, I'm just going to cut them. That's generally what ends up happening. Suppose I could cut like a Priest for a Gather, maybe. We'll try this and see how it goes. Overall, pretty good game one showing considering our draw was a little awkward. Oh, there it is. The Satyr Wayfinder, best card in our deck. By quite a large margin, I think. Just does everything. Fills your graveyard, gets you lands, gives you a chump blocker, gives you a thing to potentially whip back later to, you know, get deeper, maybe give you more things to flashback with Jace, like a wider variety, or to find you more creatures to whip back. Basically just does everything you want. So would not be surprised to see Whip be the card taken here, but realistically, I want the Satyr. I think the Satyr is the best card for me. The Whip is definitely what beat my opponent in the first game, though. Yep. They are Scourge. Alright, pick up a free land, mill some sweet planeswalkers. So, opponent does not know about the forest. Does know about everything else, though. Alright, Courser's pretty nice. Don't really want to play the Urborg yet. If I was playing against any other deck, I would have just played Urborg turn 2 instead of Swamp, and that would fix all my, like, double black issues. But since they might not have a double black and they might need it, definitely didn't want to run it out there. And now I think we just play Courser. And if our stuff dies, then we get to cast Treasure Cruise. We have a Jace on top, which is another pretty big threat. So things are going pretty well. Not too shabby. Alright, yeah, opponent appears to be wanting that double black, so we're not going to help him out if we can help it. Island off the top might actually be the best card. Alright, so now we have a decision. We could cast Treasure Cruise, exiling all of our stuff. That would draw us up to 8 cards, and then we would have to discard. More realistically, they're probably just going to counter it, but that might also be okay. And I don't really want to play Jace into a potential sweeper. Also, if I play Cruise, that exiles the Whip, which I want for the Den Protector. And I think our opponent kind of has to deal with the stuff we have in play already, so it might just be beneficial to just pass. And there's nothing they can really do on this turn. And then if I play Den Protector next turn, they have to counter it, and that might be nice. Yeah, so the opponent's kind of in the squeeze where, like, if they play Ojutai, I can either play Priest or Den Protector and get back Whip. But if they don't do anything, I'm kind of free to just play this Drago game. So it is a little scarier to do this against a deck that has Ugin, certainly. Ooh, Foul Tongue. Showing me Mr. Steal Your Girl, a.k.a. Dragonlord Silumgar. Hubby, you're being ridiculous. Just stay up there. Just stay. Alright. Tassiger. Interesting. Interesting. Now I kind of just want to jam Priest. But certainly being able to Den Protector the Whip is pretty nice too. But I think my opponent is probably going to give me a window to Den Protector the Whip no matter what. Because they're going to have to, you know, spend some mana to deal with this 5/5. And granted, I'm giving them the second black to maybe be able to downfall this. But I think we're going to be able to slip in that Den Protector whenever we want to. It's all just a matter of, you know, trying to play around their counter spells and make them use their mana awkwardly so you can get ahead. And I think so far I've done that pretty well. But yeah, it is scary against this deck that can just be like, oh, you gave me plenty of time to like drop my bomb. Thank you so much. Yeah, so like right here, he's at 5 lands, maybe go into 6 lands next turn, can play Silumgar, potentially take my demon. That would be bad for me because I don't have a removal spell. And I sided out all my removal spells. And they kept the card on top. Alright, free Delta. Love it. So we jam with Priest and Demon. If he blocks the Priest, that's fine, because then we're not getting hit for 2 every turn. Well, it's kind of like win-win, because if they just take the 2 damage, I'm also fine with that. Now we have to make a decision with what we are doing with our lives. So if we play Den Protector face down, and they don't counter it, I'm just going to pass. But if they do counter it, what are we going to do? Could just play Jace. Or Cruise, I suppose. And I'm fine to run this out into Counterspell mana because we have another one on top. Alright, so it just shows me the same Silumgar. So do we want to play Jace or Treasure Cruise? I think we want to Cruise. Cast Cruise, keep the whip in the yard. So 2 lands and a Courser, not that great. Or 2 lands and a Den Protector, but they already knew about that. Courser's on top. And I guess we could shuffle it away in our upkeep if we wanted to. We do only have 1 land left to Delta for. Do I actually want this Courser? I mean, I want it more than I want a land. It's certainly true. So maybe it's better to just save the Delta to clear a land off. Disdainful Stroke's pretty nice. Can potentially deal with the Dragonlord Silumgar if we get there. So now we're trying to protect this Den Protector and actually force this thing through. We'll attack with both of these, see what happens. Alright, Priest gets blocked this time. And Demon gets downfalled. Alright, so now we have Jace. And then, does our opponent have Languish or just Crux in their deck? Because if they have Crux, I'm fine with them killing their own Tasigur. Guess maybe I should have kept an Atarka in my deck to deal with Dragonlord Silumgar. And the Tasigur. I don't know. Still not even sure if boarding in Tasigur is correct against me. Alright, so there's 6 land ETBs tapped, and we're going to get to drop to Stroke, so that's excellent. But if they played Silumgar and took our Jace, we might be in trouble. They're just going to downfall it. That's fine with me. There's a Languish. That does not kill ye old Silumgar. So think I'm just going to shuffle it away. Net 1 life, which is pretty tight. Yeah, I definitely have to reconfigure my deck a little bit. Probably have to keep in some downfalls. Because I'm also, like, super weak to Ashiok. Yep, give me that swamp. Alright, another free land on top. I'll take it. Now we have a Thoughtseize that'll be pretty nice. So do I want to play Tasigur or Den Protector or neither? If I play Tasigur, I would like to do it for 2 mana so I can keep open Activate plus Disdainful Stroke. But then I'm only leaving myself with Whip and no creatures to whip back. So that leads me to believe that maybe I should just play like a Tasigur for the full amount. Or maybe Tasigur for 4, actually. So then if he doesn't cast his Silumgar, then I can just activate it. So we can just remove the land and the cruise, I guess. So that gives us one less thing to flashback with Jace, but should be okay. Gonna be able to shred his hand with Thoughtseize if we want to. And should be able to find something else, probably. Most likely we just kill them with Whip before anything happens. Yeah, so this is the scenario that I thought was kind of likely, where they wouldn't run Silumgar into Stroke. And then we just get a free card out of the deal. So I think Tasigur for 4 mana was correct. Puppy, stay. Just sit. Be good. There's a dig in response. I'm also fine with that. Not too worried about, you know, card advantage at this point. I'm mostly worried about efficient mana usage. At some point, they're going to have to, like, spend 4 to 6 mana into my Stroke, and I should be able to use that to get ahead. So Puppy's going to jump. Goodbye, Puppy. Aw, too scared? She gave up. Alright, so he gave us another Stroke back, which is pretty nice. So definitely taking this time to resolve Den Protector. You can get back Whip whenever we want. And I definitely want to draw into that Thoughtseize, so I'm probably not even activating Tasigur this turn because I don't think he'll give it to me. But this game should be over pretty quickly. Let's see if this Thoughtseize just getting countered. Now we have a Nissa on top that we can just flip immediately, which is excellent. Sometimes you play these games where you end up with 12 lands or 10 lands in play and you've already, you know, hit most of your forests, if not all of them, but thankfully this game we've only seen 2, which is awesome. So we still have a forest to hit. And as you can see, we're in game 2. Timers are going kind of low, so if this were real life, we'd be kind of in trouble. So this deck is a little ponderous. But as long as you're not playing against another slow deck, you should be fine. If you are playing against another slow deck, you just have to be pretty clear with your opponent that you both need to hurry up. Unless neither player has any interest in actually finishing 3 games, but I do. Alright, so now we can attack with all of our creatures. If he wants to block a Courser, he takes a bunch of damage. Or block a Den Protector, actually, is probably the best one. Or not. We did the opposite. I went from Courser to DP. He went from DP to Courser. kind of funny. Maybe back to DP, yeah. He kills my Tasigur here. It's a pretty big beat. Then we're trading Den Protector for 4 damage. Couple questions here. Does that mean that I should activate my Tasigur? I think it does. Because these 4 cards are all great. Nissa is great. I guess we could activate for blue. Tasigur does in fact do that. Well, now we get a Satyr Wayfinder back. Should we hold on to this Languish? Puppy, you were just up here and you want to leave. Now you want to come back. You don't make any sense. Do I care about this Languish? Don't think so. It is possible that that's all I really want to do is attack into the Tasigur, finish it off with the Languish. And now we have another land on top, which kind of stinks. And maybe we should have kept the Languish. Well, there's another one. We can try it again. And I feel like our opponent's last card is Counterspell plus the Silumgar, so I don't really want to run the whip out there. But now opponent is going to get to activate Tasigur twice, which is also pretty bad for me. So maybe I'm supposed to... Well, now if I play the whip, I can't actually use it this turn either, which is pretty silly. Since I played Stupid Courser first. Okay. That makes sense. So I think it makes sense to just give them a downfall back, so now they have downfall Silumgar. I can kill one of my coursers, whatever. I'm going to be able to attack with everything, cast Languish to kill everything, and then I still have all the strokes for his Silumgar. And I'm playing all the free lands. Okay, well, having Den Protector definitely makes this better. What'd they do with their Scry? Scry went on top. So the plot thickens. I feel like I screwed up this game somewhere. Might have been just like wayfindering away the Languish in the first place. But I feel like I've been ahead pretty much this entire game. Opponent just concedes. Okay, probably just concedes the Den Protector. They kept something on top. Don't know what it is, but they're just going to lose to the DP. So, okay. Yeah. 1-0. Defeated a control deck somewhat handily, despite our main deck not really being built for control, but that's kind of one of the benefits of all the control decks, you know, having these creatures that they're trying to kill you with, where it's like your Languishes are meant for things like green-white decks and whatnot, but they end up being good against dragons as well. So, currently 1-0.